Jessica Graae has been nominated for 6 WSTW's Hometown Heroes Homie Awards. She was a winner of the 2013 Philadelphia Folk Factory's People's Choice Award, was the 2012 and 2014 Delmarva Folk Hero Contest finalist, and a solo artist in Wilmington's 2012 and 2013 Ladybug Festivals. Her song, Wait by the Water, is featured in the 2013 independent film, Yes, Your Tide is Cold and Dark. Her full-length CD, Gypsy Blood, was released in November 2013. In November 2014, Jessica showcased at the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance. Jessica, welcome to the Performing Songwriter.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I was going to ask you to talk a little bit about how long you've been songwriting and performing your songs.
I've been writing songs for about 4 years, I would say, and I started performing them right away.
Mm-hmm. So you're a relatively new songwriter.
I'm a relatively new songwriter. I've been a professional musician for over 20 years, so I had been singing other people's songs.
Mm-hmm. I remember reading your bio that actually you started when you were a kid, pretty much, right?
I did start singing when I was a kid. I started performing in musicals and different productions, and then became a songwriter much later.
Why don't you do a song?
Great. Okay. Super. I'm going to play Wait by the Water. It's the first song that I ever really wrote. I took 2 songs and kind of wove them together, and that's the song that you mentioned before is in a movie. Wait by the water, wait on the sand, it's a long way back home. I'll take your hand. Wonder how did I get here? How'd I get so far? It's a long way back home. I'll follow the star. There you will find me. There you won't mind me. Alone I'll be, alone. When I follow my heart's usually wrong. It's a long way back home. I'll go it alone. There you will find me. There you won't mind me. Alone I'll be, alone. I hear the voice of God talking. I hear it in my ear. I hear the voice of God talking. I hear it loud and clear. Right here beside the water. Right here beneath the sky. Take my hand if you want to. Hold me tight as you can. It's a long way back home.
And what was the name of that song again?
That song is called Wait by the Water.
And that was in the movie.
Yes, it was.
Is that easy to get that movie online?
Yes, you can actually. The entire title of the movie is Yes, Your Tide is Cold and Dark, Sir. So you can get the movie, I believe, on Amazon.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah. Some of my vocals are also in Chris Malinowski's songs. He's the writer-director. So
very cool.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about our songwriting topic today.
Okay, great.
And I'm going to look at my notes so I don't forget what I need to say. There are certain tools that we use in songwriting, like alliteration, also like internal rhymes, that type of thing. So I wanted to ask you, like, what tools do you use as far as those kind of things that are also in poetry?
It's a really interesting question. I think a lot of times the using assonance comes up when we are trying to find a rhyme and can't find it, so we go with something else, or our ear sort of picks up on a sound that we like and we use it. Sometimes I write songs from sounds. So I may start with sounds from the guitar and sounds from even syllables that aren't words, and then they turn into words. So I have a lot of different ways that I find songs, or songs find me, and I do use assonance quite a bit. And I actually I brought my songwriting folder. Right now I'm writing 14 songs in the month of February. And because we go through the song so quickly, sometimes it's hard to remember what you wrote the day before. And I thought, well, I know I did that recently. In one of the lines, if I might look.
Absolutely.
So I have, Lord help me when it's time to go, spirits lift me, oh lift my soul. So soul and go don't exactly rhyme, but it sounds close enough. So
yeah, like a near rhyme, I think they call
it's a near rhyme. So I think that's what you were getting at.
Yeah.
And then I started to think, well, it's really interesting. Why do we feel the need to rhyme? Is it because that's what people always do or often do in songs? And sometimes we're really slave to that. I think we really force rhymes when we write songs, and
sometimes people do, and that's not good.
It's not good, or it can sound cliche, or we're sitting there thinking, I know what's coming next because I know the only word that can rhyme with this. And I started to think too that we don't only do that because of convention, but we do it because it helps our ear organize things, and it helps the listener be able to relate to it, and it creates a kind of structure within the song. And
they're used to that.
They're used to it, and it's a very musical thing to do. It has a sort of ebb and flow to it.
You mentioned the rhymes that I call lazy rhymes, which okay, how am I going to rhyme this word? Oh, okay, I'll use this word. I use rhyming dictionaries, which I find are really helpful. Great. The other thing that I have is called Master Writer, which is a songwriting program, which isn't cheap, but it's very good, and they have a whole rhyming section.
Oh.
You know, and if I can't find a rhyme, I'll either think of something else as a line, or, I try to avoid lazy rhymes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you say they can sound cliche and not good.
Yeah, well, I think, and that actually, I think, helps us get even more sophisticated in our songwriting, that sometimes we realize that we can't have that word at the end of a sentence, so maybe we'll change the syntax and move it to the middle, and then have something else be the rhyming thing.
Exactly.
So it's actually really fun. It can be frustrating, but it can lead us to something really interesting discoveries about language.
Exactly. Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm going to ask you to do another song.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much. I want to play a song that I wrote last year, and it's based on my great-grandparents. For a long time, I had wanted to write a song about them. They went down in a ferry boat in the 40s that hit a mine from the war, and they had the opportunity to take a lifeboat and be saved, but they wanted to give a chance to some younger people to live. So I wrote a song about that. It's called Tomb in the Sea.
Down to her watery grave she did go, left all the things that she did know. For a tomb in the sea. Mines from the wall below the waves, beckoned and called to shadowy graves. And a tomb in the sea. Brothers and children left behind, pages of letters they would find, and a tomb in the sea. Save all the others, save their lives, save all the others, save their lives. Lifeboats and rafts there were but few. She did what she knew she had to do. Went to the tomb in the sea. Save all the others, save their lives, save all the others, save their lives.
That's quite a story.
Thank you.
And we're going to do our Skype interview right now, and we'll be right back. My Skype guest today, Robert Stephen Willams, is both a songwriter and an award-winning prose writer, including the novel My Year as a Clown. He studied songwriting with Roseanne Cash, Jimmy Dale Gilmore, and several top country writers. His song, The Jersey Cowboy, was featured on NPR's Car Talk. In 2005, he released the critically acclaimed CD, I Am Not My Job, featuring Rachel Z and Sloan Wainwright. Previously, Robert was an executive on the business side of music. Robert, thank you very much for coming on to Performing Songwriter.
Hey, Ray, thanks for having me. Looking forward to hanging out with you for a bit.
I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about how long you've been writing songs and how long you've been performing your songs.
I guess back in high school when, you kind of pick up the guitar, I found myself every time I tried to learn a song, I sort of started to drift off and just started to write my own thing, and I kind of been keeping that habit going throughout my whole life. So, I don't do very many covers at all. There's great benefit in learning other songs, but every time I sit down to try to learn a song, I end up writing a song, and I think that's a good thing.
We're going to talk a little bit about our songwriting topic today. There's certain songwriting techniques, I guess you say, that actually are also techniques in poetry, such as internal rhyming, alliteration, that type of thing. And I wonder if that's something that that you think about as you're writing a song, and what kind of those things might you use in your songs?
Well, that's a great question, Ray. It's funny, when I'm writing, I'm not thinking about technique. I'm really thinking about the emotion and the truths behind the emotion. Not getting too attached to the facts, but just exploring these feelings. And then as I'm playing and I'm writing and I'm recording, I'm listening to hear how the words sound. And that's where alliteration, internal rhymes, those things come into play, not necessarily in a formulaic way, but as you're starting to get into that revision phase and you start looking to see where things are falling. I try very early in the song not to bog it down with any sort of technique and just go with how am I feeling, what is this song, I'm really thinking more about what is this song about. Sometimes I don't even know until the end. It's just, there are no, I try to say with anyone that's trying to learn songs is that, there's lots of rules, but all rules are made to be broken, and don't put yourself in a box. I think, especially new songwriters, I know I was like this. I just wanted to get the song written. And as far as the editing part, I was poor in that area, and over time I've realized, I have to spend more time, editing, and I don't know, do you find that with new songwriters? Yeah, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I think if you were to plot length of song and length of time being a songwriter, you will find the ones that have written the shortest amount of time end up writing the longest songs. Right. and look, I've been there, Ray, I'm sure you've been there too, and it's just one of those things that you start to learn that you can trust a listener that they're going to get it, and you can get to your point, in fewer verses. There are only, one or two songwriters that can get away with a 10-verse song. One of them is Mr. Dylan. Very few others. Yeah. Yeah. There are very few others that can do that. And generally speaking, you can get to what you need to say in a couple of verses.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to do one of your songs.
Great. So, given that I grew up in South Jersey and you're a Philly guy, I thought I'd try this song called Find My Way Back, which is about, you know, whenever I'm down in Philly playing a gig or I'm talking to friends down there, it always reminds me of my childhood, and it makes me think about, you know, that sense of innocence and how things were and that state of mind that you have. And then as you grow up, you kind of lose some of that. And this song, I guess, is about trying to find your way back to that state of mind and those experiences as a child. It's called Find My Way Back. I remember when I didn't have to tell Mom where I played. I played with friends all day. I done the thumb, see, now I forgot the lyrics there. I remember when I didn't have to tell Mom where I played. I played with friends all day. Those days we didn't lock our bikes on the front door. The neighborhood was my home. Slipping down a sliding train without tracks. Don't know how it happened, but I need to find my way back. I remember when I didn't hesitate to climb a tree. I climbed because I had faith. Had faith in myself, my church and my friends. No tree was too tall. Slipping down a slide in a train without tracks. Don't know how it happened, but I need to find my way back. Broken dreams, sullen skies, highways going nowhere. I need to find my way back. I remember when you used to think I could do no wrong. I know I could be that man again. A man who isn't afraid to try or to fail. A man who learns from mistakes. Slipping down a slide in a train without tracks. Don't know how it happened, but I need to find my way back. I need to find my way back to you. I need to find my way back. There you go, Ray.
Yeah, you know, I think that's true for everyone. Not everybody does it, though. It's a road to go back on, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Now, interesting in that song, because we're talking technique, so there's 3 verses to that song. And in the first verse, it's talking about, you know, you're with your mom and you're a little kid and you don't lock the door on the bikes and the neighborhood's like how we used to, and I'm sure, you know, we used to go play baseball and, you know, today kids are scheduled. And back then you could do what you want. So then the second verse is about, you know, being fearless. Could climb, you know, you didn't hesitate climbing a tree. So you're still playing off of that childhood thing. Then when you get to the third verse, you could find another thing with your childhood, but you've kind of already made the point of what that's about. So the third verse in this song for me was the tricky part. And that's how I transcended it. Now I'm an adult and I'm in a relationship, and it's about, you know, I used to be this way with this woman and I need to find my way back to that. And now you're taking, when you hit the chorus, it means a whole different thing from the first 2 times.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I did want to ask you about your writing. briefly. How did you, how long have you been writing? Was it before you started songwriting or the other way around?
I've always been a writer, but, I had a pretty high up job in the music business. I worked for EMI Records for 12, 13 years. And, a lot of my friends, as you know, have been, jettisoned from that industry. And I kind of got out in 2000 because things were, definitely changing rapidly. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I really started writing seriously full time. But I was always writing, as a kid. And it's funny, when you're in the record business, you're tangential to writers and artists. But until you're actually doing it, you don't realize how hard it really is and how much courage it takes to just get out there and do it. Because, Ray, I can see, you're a writer yourself. It's not an easy way to make a living, but it certainly is very rewarding and a lot of fun.
Do you find any similarities between songwriting and the other kind of writing that you do?
Yeah, I do a lot of fiction writing. Obviously my novel, I'm working on another novel. I'm also a filmmaker. I'm working on a film right now about F. Scott Fitzgerald. And yes, because there's a narrative, there's a storyline. I like story songs, as you can see. But there's a narrative in everything, whether it's a film, a book, an essay, or a song. And I like to look for that narrative. And there's one technique that I've really is taking words out. It's unbelievable how when you write a sentence, especially in songwriting, how many extra words you put into a line that if you pull it out, it actually is so much more powerful.
Absolutely. Talk about our performing topic today, which is kind of a different slant in terms of totally other disciplines. I mean, it could be writing, but what I want to talk about, I was actually in the 80s, very briefly, I was involved with selling like securities and mutual funds and stuff. I did learn a lot of stuff, and I think there's, to me, there's a possible crossover with performing. When you sell something, you want to know what people want, and you want to give it to them. If you're doing it right, people a lot of salespeople do it wrong. They just try to do a power play on the person, which rarely works. Also, you try to look for a win-win situation, for example. And I wanted, in terms of your performing, do you find any similarities between, let's say, selling something and also selling yourself, and involving the audience so that you know what they're looking for?
Yeah, I think the great thing about performance is that you can be connected to the audience, and sort of a great salesman is a great listener.
Exactly.
And I think a great performer, one of the elements of performance is listening to your audience and getting a sense for where their heads are at. And part of that is just, on what day of the week it is, what the weather's like, what city you're in, there's a context for, each show. Because there are, even though you don't know the people, you do have some things in common with them. You all had to get to the venue. So, there are ways to relate. And it's the same thing if you're a salesperson. You're looking for those common things, whether it's sports or the weather. They're icebreakers.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I'm going to ask you to do one more song.
Okay, great. So, in my novel, which I happen to have here, My Year as a Clown, which actually there's a lot of Philadelphia. It's not a sports book, but the protagonist is a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, and the story chronicles a year in the life of this guy, Chuck Morgan. It's got nothing to do with being a clown. We've all been clowns at times in our lives. And it chronicles the 2003 Philadelphia Eagles season. But in the book, at some point, this character ends up doing some yoga, and he finds that very beneficial, but he's got mixed motivation because he's fallen in love with his yoga instructor, which I do not advise that you do. That kind of messes things up. So when I was exploring this in the novel and understanding this character, Chuck Morgan, that's the guy's name, wanted to write this yoga instructor a song. And so, the first draft was he wants to write the song and he gives it to her. And then as I got into it, I said, well, what is that song? So I wrote some lyrics to understand really what it could be. Mm-hmm. And then once I had the lyric, it was like, oh, wow, maybe I should put some music to it. So that's really how the song came out. And then what happened was, it's now a download in the book. So when you get the e-copy, you can just download the song, which is kind of cool. So this song is called Only She Knows. It's written by the protagonist in my book, so it's fictional. Sparks crackle in the air. Smoke smolders in the brush. And I'm blinded by the glare. Feels like a high school crush. And I doubt that she's aware. I'm thinking about us. Maybe she loves me. She don't know it. Maybe she loves me, just can't show it. Maybe that's it. Maybe she loves me, but she can't risk a love. Maybe only she knows. Pull the petals off of daisies. Pull the there and bloom. Is what I'm feeling so crazy. Is what I'm feeling too soon. Maybe she loves me. She don't know it. Maybe she loves me, just can't show it. Maybe that's it. Maybe she loves me, but she can't risk a love. Maybe only she. If I had the power to stop picking flowers, this could be the hour that I break her spell. If she doesn't love me, then I don't wanna know. Maybe she loves me, she don't know it. Maybe she loves me, just can't show it. Maybe that's it. Maybe she loves me, but she can't risk a love. Maybe only she knows. Only she knows. Only she knows. Only she knows.
Did you find that song a little harder to write because it's from a fictional character as opposed to, maybe something relating to your life or relating to somebody you know or somebody that you saw?
Yes and no. I'm making this film about F. Scott Fitzgerald, and he said that in one respect, all of his characters are him. And so I could say the same thing about, once you get into the world, you kind of know. Mm-hmm. So, and in the book, Chuck writes this song, but he never has the courage to give it to her.
I wanted to ask you before we close out here, is how can people learn more about you, get your CD?
Great. So you can just Google me, Robert Stephen Williams, or you can Google My Year as a Clown, and I will come up. My website's robertstephenwilliams.com, but you just Google me. I've been around long enough that I'll just pop up.
Robert, thank you very much for being on the show. Okay, Jessica.
Yes.
Let's hear another song.
Okay, super. I am going to sing Lining Up My Angels.
Day I'm lining up my angels before they let me down. Today I need the extra help right here down on the ground. Oh, you beautiful angels. Oh, your snowy white wings. Oh, you beautiful angels. Oh, your snowy white wings. Today I need the extra help from angels in the sky. I hope they might be looking out, protecting from on high. Feathers and clouds wrap around me. Far from the earth I ascend. Stars in the darkness surround me, and the heavens, they have no end, and the heavens, they have no end. Oh, you beautiful angels. Oh, your snowy white wings. Oh, you beautiful angels. Oh, your snowy white wings. Today I'm reaching for my angels. I know that they are there. Today I need their special touch to feel them everywhere. Feathers and clouds wrap around me. Far from the earth I ascend. Stars in the darkness surround me, and the heavens, they have no end, and the heavens, they have
That's a real pretty song.
Thank you so much.
Okay. We're going to talk about our performing topic now. I think sometimes it's good to take ideas from other totally different disciplines. Now, for a very short time in the 80s, I was in a sales position with securities and that stuff. And I wasn't very successful, but I learned a lot about sales, and I used to try to book people. Well, I did book people, and I used some of those techniques, which I use ethical techniques. The good salespeople use ethical techniques, and some of the things like for that you want to give the customer what he wants, very much like an audience. You want to. There's a thing called win-win. That would be a win for you, but also for the audience. There was a guy, Zig Ziglar, who was a sales trainer. I guess he still was kind of a interesting, weird kind of guy. And what he said is you get what you want by giving other people what they want. So I wanted to ask you if you can relate to any of that in terms of how you relate to your audience.
That's a very interesting question. And I don't usually think about my music in terms of sales, although I've had to, I book myself all the time. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times, and I can only do what I do in terms of my singing and songwriting. Mm-hmm. I can't be somebody else.
Exactly.
I can't get up and be Madonna or, I really a pop singer. So I think I know people tell me sometimes that when they hear my songs, they're moved by them, that they can relate to them. So I will either use my ability to write about something that's maybe universal and move people with that. Mm-hmm. And that's as far as my songwriting. And my performing can be a little bit outside of that. I use a lot of humor when I talk and mm-hmm. when I introduce my song. Uh-huh. Very often I'll say something funny and I'm told and then sing a really sad song. Yeah, right. People say that's really weird, but hopefully it keeps people engaged. So mm-hmm. the win-win is that I try to build on what people say that they enjoy, and I still do what I do. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, I mean, whether they realize it consciously, people want to have an emotional reaction to the song.
Yes. And
if they don't, then you don't feel like you were at a good performance. You know what I mean? Right. And it all comes down to and I've talked with the other artists on the show. It's not about us on stage. It's about the audience. And also for them to be, in a sense, a part of the performance. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why I asked that question, and hopefully performers that might see this would think about that right before they're ready to go on stage.
Yes, yeah. Or as they're preparing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we're ready for your last song.
Okay, wonderful. My last song I'm going to play is called "Did You Fix Your Life," and it's about living with someone who has an addiction.
Your recovery was my discovery that you had waited too long. Your recovery was my discovery that I had everything all wrong. Your salvation became my frustration when I couldn't help you at all. Your salvation became my damnation when I nearly gambled it all. Did you fix your life? Did you make Did you fix your life for good? Did you have the heart? Does your love remain? Did you fix your life for good? Your obsession became my life lesson that I wish I never had to learn. Your obsessions and your transgressions nearly set our little house to burn. Did you fix your life? Did you make a change? Did you fix your life for good? Did you have the heart? Did you make a change? Did you fix your life for good? Did you fix your life for good? For good? For good?
Have you written a lot of songs that have let's say, a social message?
Yes, actually. I just wrote one called Beautiful Dreams, and it is, it's about the Mexican tomato farmers that we're getting in this country. We're getting a lot of our tomatoes and other produce from Mexico, and the people who are working in those fields are working under horrible slave conditions. Sometimes they are being held there for months without being paid their wages. Wow. They can't get to doctors. You can read about it. You can Google it and find articles on NPR. When I read the first article, I could not stop crying. So I've written that. That's my most recent one with a social message. I've written quite a few about, my latest one that I'm working on is about bullying. I've written songs about suicide. I also wrote quite a few songs about living in the city of Wilmington. I wrote about some of the things that I saw there, some of the kids, young kids involved in crime, prostitution. So I've written a lot of those songs, and unfortunately I haven't had instances where I've really felt like I could play them.
Well, so. Okay. Before we get ready to go here, if people are interested in learning about your music, contacting you, how might they do that?
I have a website, and the website is jessicagraae.com. That's Jessica, Jessica, Graae.com. And I also have a lot of music on Reverb Nation. So the site is reverbnation.com/Jessica Graae. And I also have a Facebook music page. So you can find a lot of my music there, and you can find my CD online.
Okay. So, and people can probably download it on
iTunes.
iTunes.
Yes, you can download it on iTunes and also on Amazon. My CD is called Gypsy Blood. So I'm hoping to have to record another CD very soon.
Very cool. I want to talk a little bit about my next show. My in-studio guest, I'm wondering whether you might know her, is Lori Citro.
Of course I know Lori. Yes, and we've collaborated quite a bit. She's fantastic.
So she's going to bring her keyboard in, and hopefully we'll have enough room. I did have another keyboard. It was fine. Vincent James. You know Vincent?
I don't think I know
Yeah,
him.
he brought his keyboard in.
Great.
And our Skype guest is Nancy Moran from Nashville.
Terrific.
I'll be talking to her from Nashville. Amongst being a solo performer, she's also, you familiar with the Four Bitching Babes?
I'm not. It sounds really awesome.
And she's one of them. Yeah.
All right, I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, they play all over the country, you know.
Great.
So anyway, so that will be next time.
Terrific.
Thank you, Jessica Graae, for coming in.
Thank you so much, Ray, for inviting me to be on here. It was really fun.
And also want to thank Robert for being our Skype guest
Yes.
today. So we'll be back in about 2 weeks.